What if I told you that being intensely excited about a new goal is actually the single biggest predictor that you're going to fail?
I mean, it sounds completely backwards, doesn't it?
Right. It really does.
Yeah, because we are so conditioned to believe that, real transformation requires this massive surge of inspiration.
Like a lightning bolt or something.
Exactly, yeah. But the data actually shows that when you rely on that initial spike of dopamine to carry you through a major life change, you are essentially setting a trap for yourself.
Which is exactly why we're pulling apart this entire concept today.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we're synthesizing a stack of sources, including some behavioral psychology research, my own personal notes on habit formation, and this really pragmatic guide called Starting Fresh.
It's a great guide.
It really is.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to kind of bypass all that typical, hollow self-help advice.
Right, the stuff that sounds good but doesn't actually work.
Exactly. We want to look at the actual mechanical reality of how human beings change their behavior.
Yeah, we are going to extract the actionable strategies that you actually need to build systems that stick.
And without the endless information overload that usually comes with this territory, right?
Totally. And we're doing this by focusing on a core philosophy that just completely abandons the idea of a total life overhaul.
Thank goodness, because that's exhausting.
It's so exhausting. The sources we're looking at, they don't care about you waking up tomorrow as a completely reinvented human being.
Right.
They care about keeping things almost painfully simple.
Yeah, so we're going to deconstruct the myth of motivation, look at why you actually want your goals to feel boring.
Which is wild.
Right. And we'll examine how environmental design basically beats willpower every single time.
Every single time.
So let's jump straight into this this trap of tomorrow,
Yeah, let's do it.
because we all have things we want to improve, and most of us listening already know the dangers of procrastination.
Sure.
But the sources highlight this really specific cognitive illusion that happens when we delay action.
Right. It's not just that we're putting things off.
No, it's that we literally believe our future self will possess this, like, superhuman level of discipline that our current self totally lacks.
Psychologists actually have a name for this. They call it the illusion of future competence.
The illusion of future competence. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and you see this perfectly in the 11 p.m. versus 5 a.m. phenomenon.
Oh, man, I know exactly where you're going with this.
Right. So at 11 p.m., you're lying in bed and you make this watertight plan.
You're going to change your life.
Exactly. You decide you're going to wake up at 5 a.m., you're going to run 5 kilometers, study for 2 hours, and then, I don't know, cook a complex, healthy breakfast.
And at 11 p.m.,
Yeah.
making that plan feels amazing.
It feels so good
You get all the emotional reward of being a disciplined person.
without doing the work.
Yes, without having to burn a single calorie to actually do the work.
Because your prefrontal cortex is driving the car at that point. It's making
Right.
logical long-term plans. But then, at 5 a.m., when the alarm goes off, your prefrontal cortex is still asleep.
It is entirely offline.
Totally. And your limbic system, which, really only cares about immediate comfort and survival, that's in charge now.
It just wants to stay warm.
Exactly. The person who made the plan is neurologically absent.
Wow. Neurologically absent. That exposes the fundamental flaw of relying on motivation, doesn't it?
It really does. It shows why motivation is a terrible engine for change.
Because motivation is just an emotional state.
Yes, and emotional states are inherently volatile.
Right. They're influenced by, like, your blood sugar or your sleep quality.
Or a stressful email you just read 5 minutes ago.
Exactly. So if you wait for the perfect time or, the perfect mood, you're waiting for a set of conditions that basically rarely align.
Yeah, you're just waiting forever.
It's like, well, if I could throw an analogy in here,
Go for it.
it's like relying on the weather to build a house.
Oh, that's good.
Right. Because it is fantastic when it's sunny.
Mhm.
You can get a ton of framing done. You feel super productive.
Yeah.
But you can't build a reliable structure if your entire construction schedule demands that it be exactly 72 degrees and completely cloudless every single day.
Right, you just end up with a half-built house left to rot in the rain.
Exactly.
And this is why the foundational step the sources talk about is narrowing your focus dramatically.
Because when people feel stuck, they tend to look at their entire life. Right?
Yeah, they look at everything and ask, how do I fix all of this at once?
Which is terrifying.
It creates an immense cognitive load. It actually triggers this existential dread that paralyzes the brain's executive functioning.
Because the sheer scale of the task
Yeah.
just makes any small action feel completely pointless.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So the solution presented in the research is to shrink the focus down to just one isolated area.
Just one.
Just one. You don't try to fix your career and your diet and your relationship all on the same Monday. You pick your sleep schedule. Or you pick a single skill, like, learning the guitar.
And by constraining the scope of your ambition like that, you lower the cognitive load.
Exactly. The next practical step becomes completely obvious, and you bypass all that paralyzing dread.
Okay, so we pick our one specific area. We refuse to wait for perfect weather.
Right.
But if motivation is this terrible, unpredictable engine, we need a replacement, don't we?
You do. We need a different mechanism to drive us forward.
And I guess this brings us back to that wild claim we opened with, that excitement is actually the enemy of long-term success.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow.
It really is.
But to understand why excitement is dangerous, you have to look at how the brain manages energy.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, excitement is a high arousal state, right? It requires a significant dopamine spike.
Right.
So let's say you decide you want to read more. On day one, you're riding that initial dopamine wave, and you read for like 45 minutes.
And it feels effortless.
Totally effortless. But the brain is designed to seek homeostasis.
Meaning it wants to balance things out.
Exactly. It cannot sustain that high arousal state indefinitely. So by day 3 or 4, the dopamine baseline has completely reset.
The excitement is just gone.
It's gone.
And without that neurochemical push, the activity suddenly feels incredibly heavy.
Yeah, it feels like a chore.
And instead of reading, you find yourself doom scrolling for 2 hours. And you just
Uh-huh.
completely abandon the book.
Which happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But the secret to consistency, at least according to the Starting Fresh methodology,
Yeah.
is to intentionally strip the excitement away and make the action feel ordinary.
Ordinary.
Yeah, you want the baseline emotional requirement of your new habit to be equivalent to brushing your teeth.
Okay, wait. I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
Because, I mean, that sounds incredibly bleak.
Bleak.
Yeah. Doesn't aiming for your life goals to feel ordinary kind of strip away all the passion?
I can see why you'd think that.
Like, if I have a massive ambition, say I want to launch a business or I want to become fluent in Japanese, shouldn't there be joy and fire in that pursuit?
Well,
Why would I want to reduce my life's greatest ambitions to the emotional equivalent of dental hygiene?
that's a really fair question, but it's a vital distinction to make, and it really comes down to separating the grand vision from the daily execution.
Okay, tell me more.
The vision, like the reason you want to learn Japanese or start the business, that should absolutely be fueled by passion.
Right, that's the big picture.
Exactly. That vision dictates your compass heading. But the daily execution cannot run on passion.
Because passion exhausts itself.
Yes. You aren't emotionally overwhelmed with joy when you pick up your toothbrush, right?
Yeah, definitely no.
But you do it every single day because the barrier to entry is virtually zero.
It's just a normalized, ordinary routine.
Exactly. It requires almost zero activation energy.
Okay, so you're protecting the daily grind from your own emotional fluctuations.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
So how do we actually engineer that? Like,
Yeah.
how do we take a massive, intimidating goal and shrink it down so it registers as ordinary to the brain?
You shrink the daily requirement until it feels almost ridiculously small.
Ridiculously small.
Yeah, like if your goal is fluency in a new language, the concept of studying might feel like an hour-long commitment requiring textbooks and, high focus.
Oh yeah, that sounds exhausting.
So you shrink that too. Today, I will learn 5 useful phrases.
Just 5.
Just 5. It takes 3 minutes. Or if your big goal is to completely overhaul your financial life.
Which is terrifying for most people.
Exactly. You don't start by creating a highly complex spreadsheet and, restricting all your joy.
Right.
You start by simply writing down what you buy each day. You just build the ordinary routine of noticing.
So you're lowering the activation energy so much that your brain basically can't find a logical reason to say no.
Exactly. You are building the neural pathway of the habit before you even worry about the intensity of the habit.
Okay, I love that.
Hmm.
But let's say I've successfully lowered that activation energy. I'm doing my 5 phrases a day. It feels like brushing my teeth.
Right.
But life is chaotic.
It always is.
My car breaks down, there's a family emergency, or I'm just utterly exhausted and I miss a day.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone listening to this has experienced that exact moment,
Yeah.
and the brain instantly goes to, Well, the streak is broken. Might as well quit.
Yeah, psychologists actually refer to this as the abstinence violation effect,
That's a mouthful.
or more casually, the what the hell effect.
Oh, I like that much better. The what the hell effect.
Right. It's a cognitive distortion where a minor lapse is interpreted as a total failure of the entire system.
When really missing one day is statistically irrelevant to your long-term progress.
Exactly. The danger zone is actually always the second day.
Because 2 missed days signal to the brain that the baseline is shifted back to the old normal.
Yes,
Yeah.
2 days become a week, and a week becomes a month.
So what's the move there?
The required action is purely mechanical.
Oh.
You just must start again immediately. As soon as the barrier is removed, you execute the habit.
But let me ask you about the internal monologue during that lapse, though.
Okay.
Because when I miss a few days of a goal, my default instinct is to lean hard into guilt.
Oh, sure. We all do that.
I beat myself up about it, thinking I can use that guilt as a whip to force myself back on track.
Hmm.
I mean, isn't there utility in holding your own feet to the fire?
The research vehemently disagrees with that approach, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guilt feels productive, but it is actually a massive drain on your cognitive bandwidth.
How so?
Well, when you sit around feeling guilty, you're experiencing high emotional friction.
Right.
You're consuming the exact mental energy you need to overcome the activation barrier of restarting.
Oh, wow.
So guilt doesn't refuel the engine, it's a leak in the gas tank.
So you're just spiraling, basically burning energy on the emotion of failure rather than the mechanics of recovery.
Which means we need a complete paradigm shift here.
What kind of shift?
You have to stop viewing restarting as a consequence of failure and start viewing it as a standalone skill.
A skill.
Yes. Restarting is an actual proficiency you have to practice.
That is such a huge reframe.
It changes everything. Stopping for a week doesn't erase the neural architecture you've already built.
Right.
The sources compare it to returning to a bicycle after 10 years.
It feels wobbly for the first 30 seconds.
Exactly. But then procedural memory kicks in. Your body remembers the balance.
So one difficult day really doesn't have to dictate a difficult month.
Not at all.
And speaking of how we talk to ourselves during a lapse, the sources highlight the outsized power of just a single word in our internal vocabulary.
Oh, yes. The word yet.
Yet, it is a phenomenal psychological lever, isn't it?
It really is. When you encounter friction, the brain's threat response often defaults to these absolute statements.
Like, I can't do this, or I'm not a math person.
Exactly. And that language is a closed door. It signals to the brain that the problem is a fixed, unchangeable trait.
Which means effort is pointless.
Right. But simply appending the word yet, I can't do this yet, forces a shift into a growth mindset.
It acknowledges the current reality without locking you into it.
Exactly.
It creates a bridge between your present inability and your future competence.
And it signals to the brain that the current state is temporary, which keeps the cognitive pathways open for problem solving instead of just shutting down in defeat.
Okay, so we've overhauled the internal machinery here.
We have.
We've detached from motivation, we've shrunk our goals to avoid the dopamine crash, and we've reclassified restarting as a mechanical skill rather than some moral failing.
Right.
But, and this is a big but, we can have a bulletproof internal mindset and still fail completely if the world around us is working against us.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like trying to go on a strict no-sugar diet while forcing yourself to sit inside a bakery for 8 hours a day.
That's a recipe for disaster.
You're just torturing your own willpower.
And this is where environmental design takes over.
Right. Let's get into that.
We deeply overestimate willpower, and we drastically underestimate friction.
Tell me more about friction.
Well, if your physical space demands high activation energy for good habits and low activation energy for bad habits, you'll eventually default to the bad habits.
Because it's easier.
It's simple behavioral economics. The brain calculates the calorie expenditure required for any task.
So, if the guitar's locked in a case, shoved in the back of a closet, behind a massive pile of winter coats.
The brain calculates the friction of retrieving it and says, let's just watch TV.
Yeah, I've definitely been there.
Right. So you have to engineer your physical space so the desired action is the path of least resistance.
Make the right choice, the default choice.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you want to hydrate, a full water bottle needs to sit right in your peripheral vision on your desk.
Right.
If you want to stop scrolling in bed, the phone charger goes in the kitchen.
Which forces you to physically stand up and walk to a different room to engage with the device.
Exactly.
But environmental design isn't just about where you place physical objects, is it?
No, not at all.
Because the sources dive heavily into our social environment, which is arguably the most invisible source of friction.
It is so invisible, but so powerful. And that's because of mirror neurons and our deep evolutionary need to belong to a tribe.
Right.
We subconsciously normalize to the baseline of the people around us.
Okay, so if you spend your time in a social circle where the default behavior is complaining, cynicism, reinforcing why things won't work.
Your brain just adopts that as the baseline reality.
Wow.
But conversely, if you were surrounded by people discussing ideas, executing plans, and embracing growth, that elevated standard becomes your new normal.
That makes total sense. But the guide does something really interesting here, though.
What's that?
It doesn't just tell you to ruthlessly evaluate your friends. It actually flips the mirror.
Oh, right.
It asks, are you the person elevating the baseline for your group?
It demands accountability.
Yeah.
Environmental design isn't just about extracting value from high-performing people.
No.
It's about evaluating what kind of friction or momentum you are injecting into the social ecosystem yourself.
Which is a tough question to ask yourself.
It is, but it's necessary.
And that naturally leads us to the environment that currently kind of dominates our lives.
With digital space.
For phones.
Yeah.
I mean, we can lose an hour to an algorithmic feed without ever making a conscious decision to start scrolling.
Easily.
Mm.
And the digital environment is uniquely dangerous because it is actively engineered by thousands of highly paid developers to exploit your dopamine loops.
It's designed to trap us.
It really is. But the sources don't advocate for a complete ascetic digital detox.
Like throwing your phone in a lake.
Right. Which just isn't practical for most people.
No.
The operative word they use is intentionality.
Intentionality, so breaking the mindless loop.
Exactly. Before the screen unlocks, you insert a micro moment of friction by asking a question.
What was the question?
What is my specific purpose for this device right now? Are you extracting specific information? Are you facilitating a connection with a human being? Or are you simply avoiding boredom?
And if you're just avoiding boredom, you implement a predefined rule.
Yes. The sources suggest small, manageable boundaries that carve out analog spaces in your day.
Like what?
Like no screens during the first 30 minutes after waking up, or no phones physically at the table during meals.
So you're creating friction against the algorithm.
Exactly. But there is a secondary, deeply psychological danger in the digital environment that the research warns against.
Oh, the trap of comparison.
Yes.
The infinite scroll of other people's success.
It's brutal.
You open an app, you see someone who is impeccably fit, financially thriving, effortlessly productive, and your brain immediately runs this harsh internal audit on your own life.
It is a massive demotivator, and it relies on an evolutionary mismatch.
How so?
Well, human brains evolved to assess our social status within a tribe of maybe 150 people.
Right.
But now we are constantly assessing our status against a globally curated highlight reel of 8 billion people.
Which just triggers profound status anxiety.
Exactly. And furthermore, the comparison is logically flawed anyway.
Because you're comparing your chaotic, behind-the-scenes day one against a highly produced, filtered representation of someone else's year 10.
You're comparing your reality to their marketing.
To their marketing. Wow, that's exactly it. So if looking sideways at the rest of the world is biologically rigged to make us feel like we're failing,
Yeah.
who is the correct benchmark?
The only statistically valid comparison is a temporal one.
Meaning?
Comparing your current self to your past self.
Okay.
Ask the simple question. Am I slightly more capable or slightly more aware than I was 6 months ago?
And those micro improvements, like sleeping 20 minutes longer, knowing 5 more phrases of a language, tracking your spending for a week, they look invisible next to an influencer's highlight reel.
Completely invisible.
But internally, they're the compounding interest that actually drives transformation.
That's exactly right.
All right, let's synthesize the mechanics of everything we've covered today.
Sounds good.
If you're listening to this and you are staring down the barrel of a change you want to make, the blueprint is clear. And it does not require you to become a superhero by tomorrow morning.
No, it doesn't. You just abandon the illusion of motivation.
Right.
And you select one incredibly specific area of focus to bypass the overwhelm.
You shrink the action down until the activation energy is so low, it feels as emotionally neutral as brushing your teeth.
Exactly. And when the inevitable lapse happens, you refuse to burn cognitive bandwidth on guilt.
You treat restarting as a procedural skill.
Yes.
You unlock a growth mindset with the word yet, and you systematically alter your physical, social, and digital environments so that the path of least resistance naturally pulls you toward your goal.
We designed this deep dive precisely for you to really cut through the exhausting, hyper-intense noise of modern self-improvement culture.
We wanted to hand you the actual levers you can pull today, right now, to build momentum without being crushed by the scale of your own ambition.
To realize that the mechanics of change are ordinary, even if the results are extraordinary.
And as we close out, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, something that kind of recontextualizes this entire process.
Okay, so let's hear it.
If restarting is truly just a mechanical skill that we can practice,
Right.
and if our external environment dictates so much of our behavioral friction,
Which it does.
what if your past failures weren't character flaws or evidence of weakness at all? What if they were simply poorly designed experiments that you just haven't finished tweaking yet?
Wow. That completely neutralizes the shame of past attempts, doesn't it?
It really does.
It turns failure into data.
Exactly. It turns out that massive mountain doesn't require a leap. It just requires engineering an environment where you can take one ordinary step. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.